From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Do school resource officers offer protection or make students feel unsafe? A growing debate over whether police should patrol the hallways.
For months, the National Guard has worked to beef up border security. Is the border safer, and what do lawmakers need to see before saying mission accomplished?
And how Meals on Wheels volunteers are paying extra attention to the people they deliver to in the heat.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Allison Snell.
And I'm Maya Petros. Thank you for joining us.
As school begins again across Arizona, resource officers are considered a tool to keep students safe. Arizona has over 100 state-funded school resource officers. But is the relationship between officers and students a positive one? As Emily Richardson reports, a Phoenix human rights group is pushing a campaign called Cops Out of Campus.
Members of the Puente human rights movement saw an increase in interest in activism among teenagers and decided to hold a youth power summit where they teach young adults about the school-to-prison pipeline and how to create change in their cities through movements like Cops Out of Campus. In 2017, students from the Phoenix Union High School District launched the campaign Cops Out of Campus because they were worried that having school resource officers on campus increased their likelihood of being deported or incarcerated.
From the initial contact with police, which would be the SROs on campus, it's just a straight line down to deportation.
But the executive director of the National Association of School Resource Officers, Mo Kennedy, believes that SROs actually help decrease the number of students who are entering the school-to-prison pipeline.
They act as really a good filter to arrest. Because if you can imagine, if the school didn't have the SRO and they had to call for the outside officer to come in, it's probably going to end in an arrest. But with the SRO, they've got the relationship with the school, with the student, and they many times have a better way of dealing with this.
According to the National Association of School Resource Officers, juvenile arrests fell nearly 50% between 1994 and 2009, which coincides with the expansion of SRO programs. However, the Community Coalition says 70% of students involved in in-school arrests or referred to law enforcement are Black or Latino.
Removing police from our schools, which is supposed to be another safe space for youth, would be a huge step.
Good SRO's number one goal is to bridge the gap between law enforcement and youth.
Mo Kennedy says that SRO's main goal is to make sure kids stay in school so that they can graduate. In the Broadcast Center, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
In April, President Donald Trump authorized the deployment of up to 4,000 National Guardsmen to help secure the southern border. Just yesterday, representatives from Customs and Border Protection and the Arizona National Guard told lawmakers how the mission is going. Pat Pobletti has the story from our Washington bureau.
The chief Border Patrol agent in the Tucson sector did not mince words while testifying to Congress on the value of National Guardsmen at the border.
I have seen what works to secure our borders, and I have seen what does not. And I know that having the support of committed and dedicated National Guardsmen gives our agents much needed help while we work to increase our staffing in CBP.
Karish said the reinforcements provided by the National Guard were crucial to CBP's mission of protecting the border, especially at a time when Border Patrol is struggling to attract new recruits, a point stressed by Subcommittee Chair Martha McSally of Tucson.
CBP is critically understaffed and remains well below its congressionally mandated staffing levels by more than 1,000 CBP officers and 1,900 Border Patrol agents. Combined with the growing crisis along the southwest border, this shortage has put our nation's security at risk.
In April, President Donald Trump authorized the deployment of up to 4,000 National Guard troops to help reinforce border security, more than 600 of which are at the Arizona border. But Democrats at the hearing, including Subcommittee Ranking Member Filemon Vela of Texas, were quick to dismiss the notion of a wave of crime sweeping into the country from the south.
To say that the border is lawless is a lie. Deploying National Guard personnel to the southern border is not new, but the circumstances for this deployment are unusual. Facts and context matter despite the administration's repeated attempts to frame them in a way that justifies its misguided and inhumane policies.
Others at the hearing, such as Democrat Cedric Richmond of Louisiana, asked how long guardsmen will be needed at the border, whether they had any clear idea of what success would look like, or what would constitute mission accomplished. Major General Michael McGuire, Adjutant General of the Arizona National Guard, said that the president authorized the deployment and it was up to the commander-in-chief to decide when to end it.
That is not a decision that the general officers or uniformed personnel make. We simply follow the orders to protect and defend the Constitution. We thank the citizens for their support.
In Washington, Pat Pobletti, Cronkite News.
While Major General McGuire may not know how much longer the Guardsmen under his command will be at the border, he says they have the full support of the community. Now, activists we spoke with worry about the deployment of troops trained for war into civilian areas. Last month, Governor Doug Ducey said he does not plan on pulling National Guard members from the border. He says there's been a surge of illegal border crossers, and his priority as governor is public safety. There are 3 Democrats running in a primary trying to unseat Ducey this November. All 3 have said they want to remove National Guard troops from the border.
President Trump is calling out his former attorney, Michael Cohen. Trump tweeted, "What kind of a lawyer would tape a client? So sad. Is this a first? Never heard of it before. Why was the tape so abruptly terminated while I was presumably saying positive things?" Cohen and Trump can be heard on the 2016 tape discussing how to buy the rights to a story from a former Playboy model about her alleged affair with Trump. The tape came to light as part of the U.S. Attorney's Office investigation into Cohen for his personal finance dealings. Trump's current lawyers say the audio shows no evidence of a crime. A mining company has been fined over $2.7 billion for contaminating a Yavapai County creek with arsenic. Baghdad Hillside was convicted of 3 felony violations relating to pollution. Back in 2014 and 2015, the company signed compliance agreements with the State Department of Environmental Quality. Those agreements were to develop a plan to stop the discharge of contaminants and to apply for environmental permits. No plan was ever submitted, and the discharge of pollutants did not stop.
National parks face an almost $12 billion maintenance backlog, with about $500 million worth of those projects right here in Arizona. A bill to help make a dent in those projects was introduced today by 2 unlikely partners, as Danny Coble reports from our Washington bureau.
An Arizona Democrat Raul Grijalva and Utah Republican Rob Bishop almost agree on nothing, but the 2 congressmen, the senior members of the House of Natural Resources Committee, both agreed today that something has to be done to close the $12 billion backlog on park maintenance.
And let's face it, if the parks are not open to and accessible to people, there's no sense of having a park in the first place.
Their solution is to restore the Parks and Public Land Act. The bill would take half of all energy development revenues paid to the government and use that money for park repairs. The fund would be capped at $1.3 billion a year for 5 years, beginning in 2019. Bishop said the time to act is now.
The longer we wait to solve this problem, the more the problem exacerbates and the worse it becomes, and the bigger the solution has to be.
There are similar bills pending, including one backed by Interior Secretary Ryan Zeke that would use funds from offshore drilling leases to pay for repairs. Grijalva opposed those, but said he could support this bill because it will not increase offshore drilling. But he stressed that this is just a short-term solution to a long-time problem.
But I do want to emphasize that this bill is a patch, not a permanent solution.
Grijalva and Bishop joked about the fact that they almost never agree on policy issues and said that if they can agree on this bill, its chances of passage are good.
I get along with him on a personal level. It's just that he's always wrong, which makes me worried about this one right now, Raul. But
seriously, I really can't remember when the chairman and I have had a joint press conference. We've had dueling press conference, but we've not had a joint one.
Bishop says that he expects some changes will be made to the bill, but both men are confident that the bill will pass the House intact. And they have been talking with a group of senators who they say are interested in jumping on board with the bill. In Washington, Danny Coble, Cronkite News.
Senator Jeff Flake is sounding off about the president's plan to provide $12 billion to farmers hurt by his trade war.
Farmers don't want aid, they want markets, and to basically take these markets away and then try to make them whole by saying we're just going to give you some aid. This $12 billion announced today suggests that this is going to be a longer-term problem than the president said.
This relief money from the Department of Agriculture doesn't need congressional approval, but some farmers say it's too little, too late. One farm group study says American corn, soybean, and wheat farmers have already lost $13 billion as a result of the tariffs.
Well, volunteers are working around the clock to keep people safe in the heat.
And they're focusing on those most vulnerable. Next on Cronkite News, how volunteers are wheeling through the heat to deliver food and check on the elderly.
And later, how the high temperatures are impacting Phoenix City employees.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. The 2018 election season has arrived. Join us for primary and general election debates. Right here, meet the candidates and hear their positions. Arizona Horizon, your source for what matters most this election season. Only on Arizona PBS.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
This current heat wave can be dangerous. One organization is working to make sure seniors, those with disabilities, and people who are homebound get the help they need. Reporter Amanda Mason went on a ride-along with one of the volunteers who makes home deliveries.
Meals on Wheels has 200 volunteers year-round, but during the summer, they are in need of helpers who are in town. I rode with Joyce Godfrey, a volunteer with the organization, who showed me the ropes.
Not a problem.
Here you go.
Thank you.
And there you go.
I appreciate your gifts.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's nice to feel like you're helping people in the community. They are very, very appreciative of it. Some of the ladies every single time will tell us their appreciation, and others, you just know it's important to them.
Do you like the meals? Yes, I do actually. They're very good.
Yeah.
I had it with another one once and it was terrible. It's like getting cardboard. But these are really nice.
Good. Gwen Hanna, the board president, has been volunteering for Meals on Wheels in Tempe for 48 years.
We're helping people that otherwise might be in a nursing home or the hospital. We're able to help them stay in their homes and stay healthy, and that's our objective.
Each year, Tempe Meals on Wheels delivers over 15,000 hot and cold meals. The meals include all the food groups and are made in the kitchen at the Friendship Village Care Center. Monday through Friday, Meals on Wheels creates 55 fresh, hot new meals to be delivered all over Tempe. Carrie Wilson's parents, who are both in their late 80s, have been receiving for a year.
Well, they like having food come every day. It's very helpful because they're not able to prepare meals for themselves anymore like they used to.
With the extreme temperatures this summer, the daily visits during the week are priceless to those who may be living alone.
These people, it's the highlight of their day to have the food brought to them and have somebody say hi to them, talk to them a little bit.
For many, this is their only visit for the day, and it's important to the volunteers to make sure that the people are all right, especially in the heat. The organization has emergency contacts for every customer and will call if they don't answer or are not doing well. If you are interested in volunteering, visit our website at cronkitenews.azpbs.org. In the broadcast center, Amanda Mason, Cronkite News.
Well, at work, you may be keeping cool in an office, but not everyone is so lucky.
Some city workers need to stay outside to earn a paycheck. Coming up on Cronkite News, the precautions in place across multiple industries to keep workers safe.
And we've been experiencing excessively hot and dry conditions, but is there any relief in sight? I'll have your full 7-day forecast coming up.
Cronkite News, weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
An excessive heat warning ends tonight across much of Arizona. In fact, the National Weather Service is keeping an eye on the entire Southwest. The city of Las Vegas issued a warning that this could be the hottest weather they see all year. Meanwhile, California's Death Valley saw a new high of 127 on Tuesday. SRP also delivered a record amount of energy to Valley customers Tuesday. The Salt River Project reports that over 7,200 megawatts were delivered at retail peak. That's the most they've ever delivered. 1 megawatt is about enough energy to power around 225 average homes. The utility company reports a big part of the high demand is the fact that our overnight temperatures are just staying so high.
A part of the City of Phoenix budget goes to dealing with the Arizona heat. Today, I spoke with someone from the City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation Department about how they keep workers safe from the high temperatures.
Greg Batch shares his best advice to anyone who's outdoors in the extreme heat.
You really need to start hydrating the night before, so it's important, before you go to bed to hydrate and drink plenty of water in the evening. That helps you for your shift that next day, because if you're starting to hydrate once you're out there doing the work, at that point it's almost a little too late.
For those who work mostly outdoors, the City of Phoenix makes sure they're prepared.
We modify their schedule, so they'll work from 5 in the morning till about 1:30 in the afternoon, so they get out there in the early morning hours when it's cooler and there's more shade, and then they're finishing their shift and finishing all their duties for the day before we really are getting into the actual heat of the day.
Shifted schedules and more education are crucial.
To take short breaks, maybe get inside a building where it's cool, or they can get some air conditioning or get inside their air-conditioned truck for a little bit of time.
Lifeguards or park rangers are outside for long hours during the summer.
Training them and educating them on the right ways to stay hydrated and different ways that they can stay safe and look after each other and their coworkers when they're out there in those conditions.
But there's protocol to keeping them safe.
So they work in shifts, and so they're constantly rotating those shifts out. They have guards that will be walking along the deck that will be monitoring the activity in the pool. They also have guards that will be sitting up in a chair, in a high chair, so they can see everything. And so they just have a very consistent rotation schedule, which helps them both for being out in the sun and the heat and staying hydrated.
The City of Phoenix has 29 swimming pools that will be open to the public through this Sunday, giving everyone a chance to cool down.
Well, we know the cost of heat here in the valley, but Lauren, what kind of numbers are we seeing the rest of this week?
Well, as much as I would love it if I had some better news in store, we actually did see record-breaking temperatures on Monday. We actually saw the same today, sitting at 116 here in Phoenix, so things are certainly not looking too great for us. And it's also no surprise that we've also been issued an excessive heat warning. This was issued to us on Monday, and it's going to continue with us until about 8 p.m. tonight. And this is not just here for us in the valley. This is actually throughout the majority of our state, even up north, places like Kingman, even Lake Havasu City, even places like Prescott might want to keep an eye out for this. But in terms of some of our neighboring cities, we're seeing temperatures that we're only a little bit jealous of. We're seeing 69 up in San Francisco, 78 in Los Angeles. But to be fair, they do have this massive body of water helping to really cool their temperatures down. And it takes less energy for our sun to heat up our dry air than it does to heat up with air with a little bit more moisture in it. But in terms of precipitation, we should be pretty clear for the next couple of days. You can see storms trickling through our satellite and radar here, but they're dodging Phoenix nearly every time they make their way through. But just because we're not dealing with the rain, we are unfortunately dealing with this heat, and it becomes very deadly very fast. So just a few things to keep in mind. Of course, drinking a whole lot more water than you think you need, and if you can, limiting your outdoor activity. So skipping the hike to Camelback. If you can hold off from going golfing, it's going to be in your absolute best interest, because take a look at your 7-day forecast. It is nothing but heat heading into your weekend. 112 tomorrow for your high, 113 on Friday. We're seeing absolutely no relief heading into the start of your next work week. The only positive is that our lows are clinging on to those high 80s. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Lauren Sheeler.
Well, temperatures are soaring, but summer vacation is winding down.
The 2018-2019 school year is beginning, and for some, school supplies are difficult to come by. Coming up on Cronkite News, the Valley program helping students gear up for the year.
I like working for Cronkite News because it gives us the opportunity to find a different angle on the same stories that every other news outlet is covering across Arizona. As students, we have the opportunity to cover issues in all across the state of Arizona.
It gives me a good chance to sharpen my skills, improve my skills, learn the techniques in a newsroom and in the programs and teamwork and technology, getting me prepared for the real world. And at the same time, I think we do a great job, make some great stories, do great journalism for the city of Phoenix and the state of Arizona.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. Join us each weekday at 5:30 and 10 as we bring you the top newsmakers who impact the state. We cover the stories in depth that shape and affect our local communities, and we take the time to ensure that all voices are equally heard. For more than 30 years, Arizona Horizon has been your voice and your source for what matters most, right here on Arizona PBS.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Exploring, it's the lifeblood of the mission.
Human beings are a curious bunch.
What are we going to see when we get really close?
Just because an idea is crazy, it's not necessarily wrong.
We were on our way.
You don't get anywhere until you've tested the limits.
That carries an intensity you can't imagine.
You could hear people just, whoa.
Oh my God, absolutely spectacular.
It's a rush.
We ask a lot of our heroes.
We are at a remarkable moment.
We're going farther than any exploration ever has.
In just over a month, voters will head to the polls for the midterm primaries. This year, Arizonans will decide the leadership for our public schools. Superintendent of Public Instruction Diane Douglas is running for re-election. She faces 4 other candidates in the Republican primary and 2 Democratic candidates. The elections happen August 28th.
A lawsuit was filed to stop the upcoming Invest in Ed initiative. This education measure aims to raise taxes on the wealthy to help fund public schools. The Arizona Chamber of Commerce created a committee to oppose the initiative. The lawsuit claims the measure is deceptive and would wind up increasing taxes on all taxpayers. The Invest in Ed campaign released a statement that reads, in part, "It's sad that the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industry is filing a baseless lawsuit attempting to prevent Arizonans from voting on the sustainable funding source for our children's classrooms." Well, school is back in session for thousands of Arizona students, and more will head back in the next weeks. To help families in need prepare, Cronkite News reporter Kevin Fleischman takes us to Scottsdale to show us a huge back-to-school drive.
About 1,100 low-income students attend school in the city of Scottsdale. Today, organizers from the district are distributing supplies. Students were able to pick out new shoes, clothes, backpacks, and much more. Elizabeth Garcia brought her 3 children to today's drive.
Like helpful, like if you don't have the money, and then, I mean, there's other ways I'm sure that they can help them get stuff.
No back-to-school outfit is complete without a new pair of shoes, and the students here get help picking the perfect pair. In addition, children were able to take home books donated by the Scottsdale Public Library. Sue O with the city of Scottsdale says having this event is really wonderful. It not only helps families who are in need, but the kids will enjoy it when they get new stuff.
They're all here to get all their needs for back to school, and they'll be ready to go to school after today.
And to make sure their smiles are ready, there's a place to get a quick dental checkup as well. In Scottsdale, Kevin Fleischman, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, meet some professionals from Africa getting local leadership training. And we'll look at research being conducted on the Alzheimer brain. That's on the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in the hot seat, testifying before a Senate panel about U.S. relations with Russia and North Korea. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.